Welcome to 18th episode of Foreign Correspondents Deeper into Hitchcock podcast. My name is Michał Leszczyk and I'm joined as always by my co-host
Sebastian Smoliński. Hello.
We are continuing our journey through Alfred Hitchcock's filmography. We go film by film and we try to provide as much context to the films that we are watching. Our journey had a very happy stop last time when we discussed the wonderful 39 Steps based on a novel by John Buchan. And today we move on to a film which premiered in May 1936. The movie is called Secret Agent. The usual way of speaking about this film is first to clarify that this is a film not based on the novel by Joseph Conrad, Secret Agent. This will be actually Hitchcock's next film. This film is based on a novel Ascendant by W. Somerset Maugham, and it's a spy thriller, very much close actually in basic design and in basic narrative momentum to the 39 Steps. In a way, even I would say it's the film's evil twin, because as much as I loved 39 Steps, here I find that the very same formula is working a little bit lesser. But I know that you actually enjoyed the film.
Yes, so this is probably the first time in our Foreign Correspondence adventure that our, let's say, reception of the movie differs slightly, at least. Yes, I like this film. I agree with you that it's kind of an evil twin. For example, when we think about, and I'm sure we'll come back to that later, when we think about Peter Lorre's performances in Hitchcock movies, then we can see that compared to, for example, to The Man Who Knew Too Much, it's certainly a kind of an evil twin of that movie. I mean, Peter Lorre is totally different here, and his appearance in this movie is in a way similar to The Man Who Knew Too Much, but also very different. But that's the reading if we consider this movie an, let's say, a second evil twin. It's an evil twin to the 39 Steps and in a way to The Man Who Knew Too Much, I would say. So that's kind of Hitchcock is trying to continue this development of the spy thriller narrative. But certainly this movie is also, I would say, much less visible than the previous two. The Man Who Knew Too Much and the 39 Steps. They are very highly regarded. They are available on Blu-ray nowadays, and I think that Secret Agent is still not released on Blu-ray, as far as I know. So that's one of the reasons, probably, and maybe that's not the reason, but that's the result of this film being slightly lower when it comes to the reception. It's regarded as a bit maybe worse than the two. And yeah, I would like to refer to the cartoon that Mr. Jarosław Janowski made for this episode. It represents, in a way, the climax of the movie, the last sequence, the train wreck sequence, and it shows, this glorious mess that we see. I mean, everything goes to pieces, everything is destroyed, and in a way, that's kind of where we go with this movie. We go to this. Towards this destruction, and maybe the movie really doesn't have a coherent sense of being. I mean, it's not a coherent work of art, but I would say that what is interesting is that many Hitchcock commentators would like to see it as one, would like to see it as a complex, dark narrative that has this sexual subtext that shows the world as a this void, as this immoral space. And, so some people are trying to see this movie as a coherent whole. But I would say what I like about his British movies is precisely the fact that they are not always coherent, that they are sometimes, they have some internal contradictions, they have some subplots that really do not go anywhere. And they're just, there's strange collections of set pieces. That's also part of criticism of these movies, that they are just a collection of, spectacular set pieces, and Hitchcock didn't really work the whole thing through. So yeah, I liked it, but I'm curious why you received it so negatively.
Well, I have a feeling that you are trying to make a Rich and Strange out of Secret Agent, because I love glorious messes and Rich and Strange was a wonderful Hitchcock mess, but I think that, well, I cannot, detect this kind of joy in Secret Agent that would, validate it as a joyous mess. It seems to me simply not working, on some basic level, and I think it may have something to do with the presence of John Gielgud. I now that I think of it, also thinking about future Hitchcock films, I think that the likability of the main character is very, very important in Hitchcock. If we don't like the main character, like Cary Grant, of course, and I'm talking about those comical thrillers, not like Marnie, but it's Robert Donat was such a effortless, charming, warm, witty presence on the screen. It didn't seem that if he was even acting. It was just this, as close to Cary Grant, I would say, as one could get. Here, we have this very serious actor, John Gielgud, who, I don't know, either was not in on the joke because he doesn't seem to have any fun in this part. I think he was probably playing it as, as one would expect a distinguished actor of the British theatre to play a distinguished novel by a distinguished author, because W. Somerset Maugham was a distinguished author, and I think that John Gielgud simply thought that he was in a serious movie, and even if Hitchcock didn't think so, and even if Peter Lorre didn't think so, by going completely crazy and currently also, I would say, offensively in his performance, it's almost like an ethnic caricature what he is doing, then no, simply John Gielgud is cold, he's detached, he doesn't seem to partake in the fun of the story. There was always a feeling in Robert Donat, I think, in 39 Steps, that he was slightly amused by what was happening to him. Even when it was very dangerous, there was this basic level of enjoyment of being in this story. I don't think that's the case about Secret Agent. I think he's a very, very cold actor, and that he's probably my main problem with the film, that I simply don't feel like watching him much in this Hitchcockian universe.
Actually, I couldn't agree more. I mean, I agree that John Gielgud, it's not that he's not very good in this picture. That's not what you are trying to say, and that's not what I think. But I think we both may say that he was miscast. And when I was trying to dig deeper into that, I was a bit surprised to discover that it was one of his very first cinematic performances. That he was, of course, already famous as Hamlet, and actually Hitchcock was trying to encourage him to star in Secret Agent by saying that this film is just, quote, another Hamlet only in modern dress, end of quote. So, maybe Hitchcock was playing on this Shakespearean note, probably without any apparent reason when we watched the movie. But, and also, John Gielgud wasn't very comfortable at the set. As you say that, you see that, and we have testimonies, we have Hitchcock biography, which confirms that he wasn't feeling very well on the set. Madeleine Carroll, who was also in the 39 Steps, she liked, or at least she could bear Hitchcock style of directing actors, constant pranks, teasings, stupid jokes. She could kind of get on with that. But John Gielgud was different, and there are these testimonies which say that he felt very insecure in front of the camera, not only in front of Hitchcock's camera, but generally he didn't feel very well. And I agree with you that you can see that very well. It's when it comes to the protagonist's appearance and power on the screen, it's nothing compared with Robert Donat, which is strange because we know that now we know John Gielgud was also a giant of the screen in a way. I saw him earlier than I saw Secret Agent. I saw him in Orson Welles' Falstaff, for example. And it's a bit of trivia, but he appeared in Polish movie in Andrzej Wajda's the conductor, I think is the
orchestra conductor.
The orchestra conductor. That's the English title of this film from 1980, and now it's like his early appearance. And it wasn't a good choice. Hitchcock wanted to have Donat once again, but couldn't pull it through because of that actor's other obligations. So we have this I would say, the weakest link. But what fascinates me in Secret Agent is this disparate acting styles that we find in the movie. And I think it's really something interesting, which shows you that although maybe Hitchcock wanted to be considered already a master entertainer, he didn't pay enough attention to kind of making these performances coherent, because we have John Gielgud, who's a bit of a shy character on the screen, and he is a bit of a Hamlet. It's not interestingly shown in this film, I would say, but there is this hint that he's struggling with making a decision to kill or not to kill, right? But it's maybe a pop Shakespeare in this case. But we also have Peter Lorre that we already mentioned, and he plays the general. You said that it's an almost ethnic stereotype, and it's true. But what is funny is that in the source text in Ascendant Stories by Mom, Peter Lorre, the general is actually he's a hairless Mexican, and because of the Breen office, because of American censorship, they couldn't say it on screen. Like they didn't want to, they didn't want to portray Mexicans in a bad light. It's strange. I found it in John Bilheimer's the censorship book, the Hitchcock and the Censors, I think that's the title. And he said that they couldn't accept that, and that's why in the movie it's totally reversed. He's named hairless Mexican because he has lots of hair and he's not Mexican, which kind of shows you the absurdity of the whole plot of the whole movie, The Secret Agent as a bit of an absurd movie. And we have the third major star, Robert Young, who I would say I think he's pretty good. Do you like his performance in this film?
Yes, I think he's probably the best thing about the film, apart from Madeleine Carroll, who is, of course, good. She's doing basically the same role that she did before. But for me, especially when we remember that Hitchcock just finished two such accomplished films as The Man Who Knew Too Much and The 39 Steps, I think it's only fair that he made a little bit of a mistake, I think, with this film. But for me, the more I think about it, I think that Hitchcock is good at pranks, but also he's good at pranking his audience famously. And, there's always this feeling that, those films are just trifles, that they're just, things of pleasure, like 39 Steps, they're not consequential, they don't tell eternally resounding stories. And when the performance is swift and quick and funny and sexy and everything fits, like in the case of the 39 Steps, then the satisfaction is so full that really there's no space for anything else. It's just a pure cinematic high. And in the case like Secret Agent, I think when those tiny things really go wrong, like miscasting the main lead, the pacing and the story, which really doesn't resound, because we are in just before the Second World War and we are watching a story basically based in the First World War, and it doesn't seem resonant for the time. This was the time that even Hollywood was starting to wake up to the reality of what's happening. So I think that those a sum of tiny mistakes with some major ones, for me, it sort of spoils the fun. It sort of spoils this cinematic high. And this is why I find it difficult, to enjoy this film. I definitely appreciate Robert Young and Madeleine Carroll. I think is always fun to watch. But for me, there's something missing at the center of this film.
Yeah, I agree. And also the movie is, in a way, it's split into halves, right? And we have the first climax is the first assassination scene, which I was surprised to find that Charles Barr called it portentously silly, and he says that it's probably one of the most silly, stupid sequences Hitchcock ever shot. Do you agree with that? Are you also irritated by these small touches, like, for example, this overlapping sound of the dog howling in this assassination scene?
Not really, but for me the basic absence, and I'm not sure that Barr mentions this, is that when you look at The Man Who Knew Too Much and the 39 Steps, these films are filled with very interesting secondary characters. In 39 Steps, we have this tragic, the crofter's wife. We have those funny gentlemen on the train. We have the milkman, who winks at adultery and becomes complicit. It's a great world of those eccentrics, and I think that's something that Hitchcock inhaled with Dickens, and with Pickwick Papers, and with this love of eccentricity that's so wonderful in British culture. And here, this film, there are not really, many of those like small, tiny portraits of those strange gentlemen and weird ladies. So this is in this way also, it lacked for me something, because Hitchcock is really great at doing those small vignettes, they're a little bit like small caricatures, like small cartoons, He will do that in Rear Window, with those, neighbors, and here I think, this film lacked not only momentum, but I think it was not populated with enough interesting secondary characters for me.
I agree with that, although I would like just to mention maybe the two of them, just for the record. This movie has surprising beginning, because what we see in the very first scene is the fake wake, we could say, of the main protagonist, who gets this new name, Ashenden, Richard Ashenden, as far as I remember. So the first scene is we see people mourning him. We see the coffin in the middle and people mourning him. And we have a bit of an eccentric character there. We have probably a war veteran. We see his war medals. And he's a one-handed guy. And Hitchcock, once again, makes a kind of a stupid, in a way, nowadays, certainly offensive joke when he shows that this man is barely able to get this coffin, and he makes another mess. The first mess in this movie, the coffin drops down and we see that it's empty. So we kind of we have fun, or the audience at the time had fun by laughing at this one-handed guy. But we have this person, and why I'm saying about this first scene is that we mentioned, or I think generally many people mentioned that the 39 Steps and North by Northwest, of course, are these Hitchcock movies that really gave the formula for James Bond movies, which I'm a fan of. I grew up with these films, even though it's hard for me to rewatch some of them from the 1960s or 70s. But here we in You Only Live Twice, in a James Bond movie, we also have this fake funeral of James Bond in the very first scene. And here we have this idea kind of in this 1930s version. I'm not saying that, James Bond owes a lot to Secret Agent, but there are these thrilling ideas that will be widely used by other mainstream movies. Or for example, I also like this small touch. Generally, I think the association of Swiss culture with chocolate is a very obvious one. It's not like the smartest idea you could get, but Hitchcock was okay with this, with using the most obvious associations at that time, at least. But we have this scene in a shop. There is this old guy with a huge beard going to take this message, which is just somewhere in one of the chocolate bars, in a huge row of chocolate bars is the one with the coded message. And I like the idea of making this very old man, a spy, and it was a bit surprising. So, I mean, there are some touches like that. I'm not trying maybe to kind of excavate this movie and make it like maybe, it's far better than the 39 Steps because it's, I don't know, because it's a bit stranger or something. But I had some fun with that. But I totally agree with you that maybe watching that today, we see these inconsistencies and the miscasts in a much harsher light. That we it's more difficult for us to enjoy it because it's from 1930s, and if it's such an old movie, it really should be good, for us to really enjoy it and not just appreciate it from a historical distance. So probably that's I mean, I more or less agree with you, but I still didn't have this feeling of like this ultimate fail that I had with some of his silent movies. For example, famously Downhill was the movie after the Brilliant Lodger, right? Mm-hmm. Here we have something like that. We have this in that case we had the Ivor Novello appearing again. Here we could have Robert Donat appearing again. So, okay, so maybe the question I should ask you is, do you think that if just simply by substituting John Gielgud with Robert Donat, you think you could enjoy it? What do you think?
It's never as simple as that. A film is an organism, so when you change one organ, all the other organs are changing. No, it's, in all fairness, first of all, I do appreciate those elements that you mentioned. Of course, they are there. I'm not saying it's a horrible film. And by the way, when I watched it first, which was around 13 years ago, when I first, watched Hitchcock, the Hall of Hitchcock, I remember that I had no problem with Secret Agent. I simply watched it after I watched 39 Steps, after I watched Lady Vanishes, and I thought, okay, this is fun. This is good. So I never, as this sort of first viewing of Hitchcock, it was quite a nice experience. I think it's only now in hindsight that I, maybe may have more appreciation for those Hitchcock thrillers that really, really work. I'm simply trying to say that this time around, this movie didn't bring me much pleasure. Maybe in 13 years from now, when I revisit it, who knows?
Although it's a podcast about Hitchcock movies, I think we are both allowed to say that we don't like something. So I'm not trying to convince you, of course, but I'm just trying to maybe just find something I like in this movie. And the one more thing I like, and you mentioned, I think you mentioned that when we were discussing Waltzes from Vienna and some other movies, was, Hitchcock's eagerness to include sexual innuendos and sexual subtexts to his films. I didn't really see that well in his previous movies. Maybe it was too subtle for me, but in this one, it's right in your face. The certain maybe quote unquote obscenity of some scenes. For example, we first see Madeleine Carroll when she's in a bathrobe, as far as I remember, and this scene is played in a bathroom, and Peter Lorre, who's handling English language as he does, he's saying that when he discovered that she's not really Ascendan's wife, he says, "Oh, you are free to me," which I found very, almost offensively ambiguous, because she's free to pursue her romantic interest, but also I think there is some subtext of prostitution in that particular line, because of the way and because of the the way he uses English slightly with slight mistake. It's not really correct.
Isn't he chasing a maid at one point who is escaping him, and he's like in a predatory way chasing her? I think that's as far as Me Too is concerned, I think Peter Lorre character is definitely the predatory male, and cheerfully predatory, I would say.
Yeah, he is, and we could approach it with some kind of understanding, because he was heavily addicted to morphine at the time, and that was one of the problems of this set. So contrary to the popular belief, even Hitchcock sets could be sometimes troubled by this kind of stuff. And if you know this biographical information about Peter Lorre, you kind of can tell. I mean, he's so strange in this movie, but in a different way than The Man Who Knew Too Much, right? He was really a sinister presence in that, and that was very rewarding, I think, for the audience, for us, when we were watching this movie. He was really scary. And in this film, as you mentioned, The Maid, there's also very, very strange short scene with a girl. Like, she's trying to kind of... there's like 8-year-old girl in a train in the mountains, and he's trying to get her attention in a strange way. He's a character who really enjoys killing. It's one of the rare occasions in Hitchcock's movies at this time. So yeah, that's kind of disturbing.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you imagine this set, with the ultra stiff John Gielgud and high Peter Lorre and Hitchcock trying to juggle it all, I think that probably was quite a set. But yeah, maybe in 10 years we can do a mirror of this podcast, and we will be revisiting all the films after 10 years, and we will see how we changed in relation to them. This time around, I wasn't a fan of Secret Agent, but I'm looking forward to a film that is next, which is Sabotage, based on Secret Agent by Joseph Conrad, which I remember liking a lot. So hopefully this impression will last.
Okay, yeah, me too. I also liked Sabotage when I saw it. I'm very happy we finally had different opinions. Maybe now you will believe us that we are not brothers, but just friends who discuss Hitchcock. And yeah, so we're looking forward to the next episode. Any final remarks?
Well, not about the movie, but I just wanted to say that if you like this podcast, please follow our fan page on Facebook. It's Foreign Correspondents Deeper into Hitchcock. And also please rate us, share us, tell other Hitchcock fans about this podcast. We are hoping for these episodes to reach as many listeners as possible. So for now, I think that's all in yet another episode of Foreign Correspondents
Deeper into Hitchcock.